Lord. Udo Erasmus, welcome to the Zoom interview series. It's really awesome to have you here today. How are you?
Hi, Jodi. I'm good. Life is good. Beats the alternative so far.
Love it. That's absolutely the way to be. So, Udo, I've had a look at your profile. There's so much incredible things that you're doing right now. You're the pioneer of health and wellness, which we can all agree is absolutely what the world needs right now. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you're currently working on at the moment?
Right. So the long story is I was born during the Second World War in Poland when it was part of Germany. My parents were from Latvia. They fled from the communists to Poland. I was born on a stolen farm, was part of Germany at the time. At the end of the war, we were fleeing. I was not quite 3 yet. We were fleeing from the communists who were chasing us in tanks and trucks westward out of Poland into Germany on roads where there were only refugees, mostly women with young children on horse-drawn hay wagons. And there were no soldiers on the road, no military on those roads, except behind us, chasing us. But the Allies were shooting at us from planes. So these were the good guys. So we were getting it from the back and getting it from the front. And my mother had 6 kids. They were all under 6 and under. And she had to leave the road because the wagon broke down and went across the fields, left 4 of us behind. And long story is a long story. All I remember really was the anxiety, the fear, the terror, the confusion, the chaos. There wasn't anything you could rely on. You were in a different place every day, being hungry, and just total confusion. And so I got my nose rubbed into what happens when people don't cultivate peace or harmony or civility or self-presence when they have the luxury to do it. Because when we don't do that, we always drift downward. You end up in the gutter when you drift downward, and war is the gutter. And so I began thinking about how could people live in harmony? There must be a better way to live than this war stuff. How can people live in harmony? And 6 years old, I said, I'm going to find out how. So that's been my driver all my life. When it came to studying, I went into sciences to understand how things work, then into biosciences, how creatures work, then into psychology, how thinking works. Because if you want to understand how to live in harmony, those are probably good topics. Then I went into medicine for a year, was really disappointed that it was only about disease and not about health. Went back into biochemistry and genetics in biology. And eventually left university and got into self-knowledge because I really needed to know how I work. In the midst of everything, okay, I understand how things work now, but how do I work? And so then I got into self-knowledge. And then later I got poisoned by pesticides after my marriage broke up and I wanted to kill something. So I took a pesticide sprayer job. I got poisoned by pesticides after 3 years of being careless. Doctor said, we don't have anything for pesticide poisoning. And that's when I got really interested in health, out of which came flaxseed oil and a method for making oils with health in mind, because they are our most sensitive nutrients and need the most care, and we give them the least care. And then I spread out into what else affects health, because it's not just nutrition. Actually, everything affects health. Who you hang out with affects health. What you're thinking affects health. How you're feeling affects health. How your environment looks affects health. How you are with the notion that your body is a terminal condition, and you live in with this little terminal condition in an infinite universe, and being okay with that. Everything affects your health. And so if you want to live the best life, you have to give everything its due. And you need to live aligned with nature and your nature. That's where health comes from.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing now.
And that's summarizing it, because wow, what an incredible journey you've had. And thank you so much for
Yeah.
being vulnerable and brave and just telling us, actually,
Yeah.
this is actually what happened.
Yeah.
And, to be in that environment where there was war, it's kind of like a message for anyone listening, or even myself. We've all had struggles in life, but that shapes us to who we're meant to be.
Absolutely.
It's almost like if we haven't had those struggles,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be where we were, because we wouldn't be in that mindset that we need
Right.
positive change, not negative
Right.
change.
Right. The
Wow.
war. Yeah. The war. It was a gift. It wasn't a gift when I went through it, but it became a gift because of what it pushed me, the direction it pushed me to look, to find something better than that. So I'm lucky that I got it really early, because we are much more versatile when we're early, resilient when we're early. If that happened to me when I was 60 years old, I think it would have been a pretty big disaster, and I don't know what I would have done with it. So it's always good to get your hardships early, so that you have fewer hardships later on, because you've adapted to living in the changing world, and living in a crazy world, and being able to find the still place that is the what do they call it, the eye of the hurricane, both in your own being, because your mind is pretty crazy too, but also in a world where everything is always changing and you don't have a lot of control of most of it.
Absolutely. And that's the funny thing in
Amazing.
life, guys. Most of life we have absolutely no control over, but
Mhm.
yet we put all our energy, all our focus on all these mistakes we've made in the past, or all these things that are nothing to do with us. So what we can do is we can focus on, well, what do I have control over? And that is making decisions with your career, and that is how you react and respond to whatever life throws at you. Wouldn't you agree, Udo?
Yeah, I would say, when you think about, freedom, and what do we have freedom? What do we have control of? Where are our choices? Really, the only really important choice that we have, because of the consequences that it has, is where we put the focus of our awareness. Because you can put it into the dump, you can put it into your sad memories, you can put it into your memories of trauma and re-traumatize yourself 1,000 times, even if you actually only experienced it once. You can put it into put it into nature, you can put it into socializing, you can put your focus, and my recommendation is that you spend some time every day putting your focus inside yourself, in the space that your body occupies, but beyond your thinking and beyond your emotions, into what is the essence, what is the nature, the pure nature of your being as a creature, as a human being. And to discover, because when you do that, if you can sit still long enough, shut off your senses, close your eyes, see how still you can sit, see how deeply still you can become, see how long you can stay there, breathe really lightly and slowly, and just look around, listen inward, feel inward, and even taste inward. What does it feel like, look like, sound like, and taste like to be alive? Because in that place is everything that deep down you have ever wanted. You came into the world loaded with it, but your awareness got taken out into the world, and you disconnected from the most precious gift you have, which is yourself. Right? And when you discover that gift, it changes everything. You become the eye in the hurricane. You can actually be in peace in the middle of chaos. No, I didn't
Wonderful.
know that I didn't know that when I was 2, but I know it now.
Wow, what a great message for the audience, and such a reminder for us all. when we are more the observer, when we're more the listener, and we're turning off all the busyness and the distractions,
Mhm.
and actually have awareness. So, Udo, awareness, is that when you're actually aware of what is happening, not what's in your head, but what's happening in the outside world? You have awareness around that? Would you say that
Yeah.
that's...
On the deepest level, it's awareness of awareness. And that's where your unconditional peace lives. Awareness of awareness, because awareness has no content. Awareness is the ability to pay attention. So pay attention to paying attention. And it is so peaceful there because there's nothing changing. There's no content there. So that's the deepest part. That's the foundation. By the way, that foundation, that peace in the core of our being is also the foundation of the universe. And when I go to that place, or when anyone goes to that place, the access is in the center of my being. So I have to bring my awareness inward. When I go through the door that is always open there to the peace that is within me, then I realize that peace is everywhere. The same peace that is my foundation is the same peace that is the foundation of the universe. And the two are not separate, they're connected. I am a center for that peace, and it goes out to infinity. You are a center for that peace, and it goes out to infinity. And 8 billion people could be a center of peace that goes out to infinity. And in that peace, everything takes place. The universe was formed, the stars collide, even on the battlefield, bringing you back to humans. Even on the battlefield, people kill each other in perfect peace because that peace is within them, it's between them, it's around them, it's above them, it's below them, except they're not focused on the peace, they're focused on an idea. You're my enemy, I'm going to kill you. The other one says, you're my enemy, I'm going to kill you. And then they play out this game that they created in their head with help from their culture or their nation or their tribe or whatever. Then they play out that idea in a place of perfect peace. If they were aware of it, they would probably put down their weapons and have lunch together, right?
Wouldn't that be nice
But,
in a perfect world?
well, it's possible, and we're living at a time where we're either going to find it or we're going to probably destroy ourselves. It won't be long.
I absolutely agree.
And I think we can feel it. I mean, COVID has certainly been put the world on hold. Everybody, it's time to come home to ourselves, because if you can't go out, you can go in, right? And it's also kind of, none of the wise people, none of the great masters were able to do in their lifetime what COVID did in 2 months. Put the entire world on a timeout. So you be bad kids, time out, think it over. Don't come back until you have better behavior. And then out of that, if we do make the effort to come home to ourselves, to the peace that is our foundation, that state of being of peace recognizes peace everywhere else. So it informs our perception, it creates our perception, but it also creates our world. So creating a world that is peaceful is just an expression of being in a state of being called peace, right? At the same time, we could be sitting here, me, with my peace that I'm talking about. Somebody else could sit beside me and be angry. And in the same world where I see, oh my God, peace has always already been everywhere, the angry person will see enemies. And then will respond into a world full of enemies, and will create a world of enemies out of their emotional state. And another person could sit on my other side and be fearful, and that person would see in that same world where I say, oh my God, peace is everywhere, this is so amazing, would see danger. and would focus in wherever there could be danger lurking in that same world. And that would inform that person's perception. It would create their perception, and that person would create a world filled with danger. And then whatever they would teach, that's what they would teach, right? So you teach about danger, or you teach about enemies, or you teach about peace, or whatever other, if your state of being is love, which is on top of the foundation of peace, then you're going to see love everywhere, and you're going to teach love, and you're going to build a world filled with love.
Beautiful.
Because it's all right here, right now, everywhere, and accessible to human beings.
And, COVID-19 has disrupted the world. We all know that. Things are happening that are just out of our control. And what a great message. It's our time out. It's our time out for the world.
Should be really called
the environment.
Should be really called a time in.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Our time out it should really be called a time in, right?
Absolutely.
Because in the midst of COVID, the peace that is our foundation, that is our universal being, is not affected. It never gets hurt by COVID. The life energy that is unconditional love, loves the body unconditionally, not affected, never gets sick. The inspiration that comes out of that never gets sick. Electrons never get COVID. Atoms never get COVID. Molecules never get COVID. COVID doesn't begin until you get to the level of interactions between molecules. And there's a lot less COVID than there is health in the space your body occupies. And if you focus on that piece, then you will not get the stress that knocks down your immune system, that makes you more susceptible. And if you eat in line with nature, and that doesn't get talked about. We get people no vax and we get people vax. But nobody's saying, what can you do to make your body stronger so that these interactions that begin at the level of interactions between molecules, that your body can drive those interactions in the direction of health and in the direction of not getting sick, or if you get sick, in the direction of less sick and more likely to survive for longer, even when you get hit with COVID.
Yeah.
Right? Absolutely.
And so I understand that you've written a best-selling book, and I'm really curious, what gave you the idea to write a book? And for anyone listening that has a passion, that has, the knowledge where they could actually help millions of people around the world with an issue, what advice could you give for someone that just wants to write a book? I love asking you questions.
Yeah, no. I was like, don't do it. Writing is very tedious. So when I wrote Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, and the previous book of it, it came out of, I got sick. I told you that story, got poisoned by pesticides. I went into the journals to learn about health. And thinking the body's made out of food, so food must be important to health. Knowing that 98% of the atoms in your body are removed and replaced every year. So your body is a major construction site. So if you raise your standard of food intake, within 1 year, you have built a new body to a higher standard because you raised the standard of what you put in here. That's why healing is possible. And so I understood that, because when you study biology, you think about stuff, and so I knew that. And I started looking at health and nutrition, disease and nutrition. I didn't look at water at that time. I didn't look at oxygen at that time, but body's made out of food was the saying. And so how do I build a better body? How do I deal with pesticide poisoning? How do I get rid of the pesticides, and how do I rebuild whatever is wrong? I had nausea, cramps, dizziness. And if I had turned my head, it felt like my head turned, but my brain didn't. Of course, that doesn't make sense, but that's what it felt like. And then I had no energy. I was 38. I was like an 80-year-old man. If I walked around a city block, I had to sit down and rest. And so I got really interested for my own recovery, since the doctors, I went to a doctor. She said, we don't have anything for pesticide poisoning. At that point, I realized that my health is my responsibility. Like I really realized it. Not, everybody's heard that, oh yeah, your health is your responsibility. But I really understood it at that point. And so I said, okay, what can I do? And so I got stuck in oils because they're the most sensitive of our nutrients. There are two essential ones the body can't make that have to come in from outside. They need the most care. They're damaged by light, by oxygen, and by heat. They need the most care, and we give them the least care. We throw them in the frying pan. And oils are vindictive. So the way that works is they treat you like you treat them. So if you treat them with care, they will take care of you. They have enormous benefits to health when they're not damaged. But if you damage them, they will damage you. And so I developed a method for making oils with health in mind because it was such a confusing area. I understood the sensitivity. Omega-3s had just been established as essential. I got poisoned at the right time, right?
We can laugh about it now at least, but at the time, obviously, it would have been horrendous.
I wasn't laughing then, but it's another gift, right? And, and I was careless, so I kind of created that gift for myself, right? It's like, that's how we create our life lessons, is by our behavior. And when we're doing stuff that we need to learn about, then we mess up, and then the learning begins, right? That's pretty. So I was. And then I realized, there must be other people who could benefit from the knowledge that I've gained by looking at all this stuff, and decided I'll write a book. I didn't have an audience in mind other than I wrote to the people that are really interested in health and the people that have some biology, biochemistry background. So that would be interesting for them. So I wrote it at that level. And I also wanted to let people know that I knew what I was talking about. And so I wrote that. It was very tedious. I wrote it 3 times. The first 2 times is like, ugh. And I did it on a handheld, non-electric, bang, bang, bang typewriter.
Oh, did you? I didn't know I didn't even know you could buy them anymore.
Portable. No, but this was in 1980, right? 1981 I started, right? And a portable typewriter. And I had done one and I didn't like it. I did a second one. I got about 30 pages into typing and I said, I wouldn't buy this book. So I knew I had to start over again. And the third time it literally fell into place. 59 chapters. I think I wrote 54 chapters, one after the other. You get to a point where your knowledge base is organized in your being. I don't know where that organization is, but it's organized in your being and it just flows. And I got there on the third try. And then I went through it and I said, okay, there were 5 more chapters that I inserted in different places where they belong. But I literally wrote the thing from start to finish, 54 chapters. And I don't know how long it took, maybe 3 months. It
shows what a great message about flow, and about you can spend years trying to write a book, and like you say, you had 3 attempts. But
right.
When you were in that state of being and awareness and flow happened, it just happened. And it probably just came out like a waterfall.
And when I say don't write one, don't write it from here. Don't write it from here. Yeah. You need to be in a place where it's an expression of your being, and there's like infinite expressions of being, any topic on whatever it is, and I did a lot of research. I did a lot of reading, and it was a new field for me because I was not that interested in fats when I was at university, because my professors were all studying DNA, RNA, and protein. And so they weren't interested. I wasn't interested. But it turns out fats cause more problems when they're damaged than any other part of nutrition. And fats bring more solutions than any other part of nutrition when they're made with health in mind and you get them in the right ratio, omega-3 and omega-6. and they're not in plastic, so you're not getting plastic in your oil, and they're made with health rather than shelf life in mind. And then they're used without damaging, so they don't go in the frying pan. And so it was the most confusing area. So it was like, oh my God, we could help so many people. 99% of the population doesn't get enough omega-3s. If we could bring them back into people's food supply, we could help so many people. And so my goal was there should be a bottle of Udo's oil in every fridge. And we're like 1/40th of 1% to that goal in North America.
Oh, you're
You know,
amazing.
so
Congratulations.
1/40th of 1%. So it's like we haven't even got started yet.
This
But
time.
but 99% of the I figured out one day I'd have to live 8,000 years at the rate we're going. So I think we're going to have to pick up the pace a little. So, but what drove all of that? It never felt like effort. We had long days and short nights, and we were on the road, and I've been on the road 6 to 9 months a year, every year for 15 years, not now, but before. And it never, I was really tired at night sometimes. I would do 4 talks in a day and two media interviews, and I did thousands of both, right? And but it never felt like work because I was so lit up inside. I was so inspired. I was so fired up. Oh my God, we could help so many people. And that's the other thing. If you're trying to find out what you should do for purpose of life, don't do anything that doesn't increase anybody's quality of life, because then it's just a job.
Yeah,
Then you're
I
just
love
doing
it.
Then you're just doing it for stupid money. And money does not bring you happiness. It might buy you a better brand of misery, but you ain't getting happiness from your money. You don't get satisfaction from your job. You put satisfaction in your job. Then you have job satisfaction. And this is kind of like that. I was inspired. I had no business background. And we just said, we're doing this. And we made so many decisions about quality of care and how we were going to do the business without having any business background. And in 2 years, flaxseed oil, which was my first oil, was the second highest selling oil in the natural foods trade, which is where we were doing the work, in 2 years. And it just created such a buzz, and people wanted to work with us, and we would set the standards. And if they wouldn't follow the standards, we wouldn't work with them. All very friendly, Do you have refrigeration in your plant? We'd say, ask the distributors. If they said yes, then then I'd send them to the guy who did the deals. If they said no, I said, are you willing to bring it in? If they said yes, I said, let us know when you have it. If they said no, I said, this is a good time to end the interview. So we had 2 questions, and we qualified people that way. And we wouldn't work with people who weren't willing to take special care of our precious oil. And so it was all just out of, oh my God, I found a purpose. There's something worth living for here. And I had never really found that, although I did a lot of looking, And when you find that kind of a purpose for yourself, it's kind of like it owns you. You become that purpose. It's like, be the change you want to see in the world. You become that purpose when you find the right thing. And then it's not work. Then it's like, oh my God, I get to do this. Wow.
Yes. Udo, you're an inspiration. What an incredible message for anyone that wants to, start something that could change people's lives, that could, it's amazing because, like you say, you had no business experience, but what you had was you had motivation. You had such passion inside your heart, and you were so purpose-driven that it flowed. So for anyone thinking, I don't have a business background, I can't do that, yes, you can. If you are purpose-driven, you will attract the right people. And it won't even feel like work. And we all just want to have fun and enjoy life.
And it was fun. It was fun. It was such an adventure. And but again, you have to first sit still and find the place where everything is possible. And then it'll come to you. I got to a point where I said, I get one life, one lifetime in a human body. What's the biggest splash for good that I can make in the time that I have? And from that place, it's what I'm doing now, which is to talk about nature and human nature and health, but bring it into the realm of experiential, not just as a concept. Just like you make an oil that you can actually take. That was, so it has to be something practical, in terms of peace and contentment and unconditional love. It's something not to think about, it's something to experience. And so that's why the still time. And out of that, then, maybe you're just going to change diapers, but you're going to do it from a place where it is meaningful. Maybe you're going to wash dishes. Maybe you're going to sweep floors. Maybe you're going to be a CEO of a company. Maybe you're going to be a middle manager. Maybe you're going to be, who knows what you're going to be, but it'll fit your experience, your interest, your experience, and somehow it all comes together where this is me. Not what I'm doing, but full presence in whatever it is that becomes the mission. And the full presence is more important than the mission, because the mission follows full presence. The mission doesn't get you to full presence. So you have to do the homework. You have to do the homework if you want that kind of a life.
Absolutely.
And that, by the way, is what every old person that's ready to die says. Every young kid that's ready to grow up says. Anybody who's been through major drama and trauma, it's what all of the wise people have said. It's what all of the people who made a difference in the world have said. It's what all of the great masters have said. It's always been the same. First, find your peace and your love and your fulfillment. And when you have that, everything in your being is available for your mission. And if you're only half present, you're going to only be able to do half a mission.
Love it.
And if you're not present at all, then you're probably going to be on welfare.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's talk about personal relationships. You have a massive goal while the time you're here, which I absolutely love. Does, someone that has such a big goal, a big dream that wants to impact over 1 billion people.
8 billion.
8 billion.
Yeah.
How is that with your personal relationships and your personal life? Does it affect that at all? Did you want to tell the audience that?
Of course, everything affects your relationships. So the way I think about it, because I've tried it every which way, like we all have, the way I've think about it now is when I am fully immersed in this mission, and I'm still like starting it. I could probably get pretty good at it in a little while. But when I'm completely immersed in that mission, there will be somebody there who will be a co-missionary, if you want to call it that, right? But if I'm half-baked, then I will find somebody to share it with who will also be half-baked. When I'm not clear, I don't get clarity in the relationship. And part of the issue in relationship, just as a foundation, goes like this. I fell in love with a woman. I saw the beauty in her. She was a goddess. She's unbelievably beautiful. To me, I don't know if everybody else saw her that way, but to me, it just hit me. Oh my God, right? And she saw that in me too. But then we got together, and I had never talked to her, and she had never talked to me. So we got that hit on each other. It's an energetic hit, totally energetic hit. And then when she started opening her mouth and started telling me all the things she's not and all the things that are wrong with her and expressing a negativity and, all of that. And when I started doing the same thing, to her. You know, I had thought my fulfillment was going to come from her because I saw it in her, but I didn't see it in myself. She saw it in me and didn't see it in herself. So then the question is, well, if you can't get to the love in you and she can't get to the love in her, where's the love in your relationship supposed to come from? And that's what happened. So she came up, she was disappointed because I couldn't give it to her because I didn't have it. And I was disappointed she couldn't give it to me because she didn't have access to it.
Interesting.
And so it broke up. So what I say to people now is, look, you're not ready for a relationship, a committed relationship, until you have committed to a relationship with your own being. Because if you're not home, then who's she talking to? There's nobody home. Right? And I think I think there are ways people express their disappointments in relationship that are like that. Yeah, when I talk to him, there's nobody home. Right? When I talk to her, there's nobody home. She doesn't get me. Right? But it's because I don't get myself and she doesn't get herself. Well, of course it's going to be a mess. Right? You're going to teach and then you bring kids into the world. And because you're not connected to yourself, then you basically encourage them to get disconnected from themselves. And you don't model the possibility of being connected to them. And if you haven't figured it out, why would you expect that they would figure it out? And we've been doing that for 200,000 years.
Absolutely. And a great message for the audience around we need to love ourselves before we can love others to have a happy, fulfilling, contented relationship. I love that.
Right. So, and it wouldn't be hard because the love is already there. Right? So to love myself, actually let me do one more thing here. If I pointed you and say, hey, whose body is that? What's your answer?
My body?
Yeah, that's what everybody would say, right? That's my body. But do you realize what you just said? You just told me that you're not the body. Right? If it's your body, if that is your body, then you are the owner of the body. Not any different than somebody says, whose tea is that? Well, that's my tea. Well, I'm not the tea. The tea is my property.
Yes.
And so the body is your property. My body is my property. So who am I? Who am I as the owner of that property?
Something to ponder on. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So let me carry it off here. Life owns your body. Life weighs nothing, but runs everything. So you are actually life, not the body. You are actually life in a human form, not the body. You take life, you separate life from the body, and your body, dust, water, air, and the light went out, right? And then it gets recycled, right? So not only that, life is all powerful in you. It's all your power is life energy. By the way, came from the sun through green plants, stored in bonds between atoms and molecules. You eat them, that energy is released. That's your life. So your life is sunshine, and your life is where was I was going somewhere else here. So you are all power in your body is life, knows everything is life, and is everywhere present in your body. It's true for life. That's called omnipotent or omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. That was the definition of God when I was a kid in church class, right? There's your God. Your God is living inside of you, running the show. You want wisdom for living? Why aren't you asking life? Why do we run to everybody else and say, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And they all have agendas. But life, the master, the God within you has only one agenda: unconditional love for your body for as long as possible. Right? Now that's the subjective part. We know about light from the outside. When you sit still and you look into the inner darkness, when you get good at it, at doing that, you actually see light inside. You are that light. You are that sound. There's sound in your silence. There's light in your darkness. There's love in your emptiness. And there's sweetness in the blandness of your taste. You are that energy. And your senses are monitors for energy, both going outward, but also going inward. So what if your body gets unconditional love from life, and you are life, does it make sense that you might want to get to know yourself a little bit better as life?
A lot to think about and ponder on. I think I'll be careful what questions I ask you next time.
No, I asked you that question. So yeah, you're off the hook. No, but so then how do you do that? How do you get to know yourself? Through heartache. Through heartache. That feeling you have in your chest when your boyfriend dumps you and you feel blue. We have lots of names for it. Or if you're lonely, feel it here. Or if somebody died and you're sad, feel it here. Sad, sorrow, grief, emptiness, restlessness, longing, yearning, feeling separated, feeling incomplete. Feel it here, feel it here, feel it here. And we have different names for it. I got 10 pages of names that we call that. I call it thirst of the heart. I like that because it's not very different from hunger for food, thirst for water, thirst of the heart to feel whole, to feel complete, to feel love, to feel fulfilled. And that ache is your starting point for the journey home. It's calling you home. It's your heart calling your awareness to come back home inside to its source in life. That's where you were when you were in your mother's womb. Because there was no place to go outside. There was nothing to do. Everything was taken care of, safe place, warm, right? And you hung out, hanging from a little cord, hang out, smile on your face, in the light. And your body was being made by that light, and that system took a long time to develop, but it's pretty amazing. So you were present inside, absent outside. So this going back home, you'll recognize the place because you've been there for as long as you were in your mother's womb. And then you came out, and then you had to get to know the world. It wasn't safe anymore. You had to get to know the world to survive. Your senses, your awareness was drawn through your senses into the world that you had to get to know. It's a normal process, happens to every human being. Trees don't have that problem because they never leave. Their awareness never disconnects from them. In the process of going out, you became present outside but absent inside in your awareness. And that's where the disconnect, that's where the heartache began. Because heartache is the sign of your disconnection from yourself. And heartache is the starting point. So you sit with the heartache, and that far behind it, like less than a hair's breadth behind the heartache, is your wholeness, is your light, is your love, is your peace, is your wealth, is your riches, is your insight, is your wisdom, is all the good stuff that we're always looking for outside. We came into the world loaded with it, and it's about time we got back to it.
Absolutely. And it's almost like the yin and the yang, the black and the white, the light and the dark. We need both for us to for there to be balance. Because when we're in our darkest moments, that's where we can reach our most transformational moments, where change has to happen. It's yeah. But anyway, Udo, we're going to have to wrap up this interview soon.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
I just
the darkest moments come from the education that we've created for ourselves because we need to learn something. They're not dark moments by nature. We're just dark about them because we expected one thing and we got another, right? But that's where the learning begins. And we created those lessons. Because if we didn't have to learn something, we wouldn't have done what we did that forced the lesson on us. So that's like tailor-made, personal, individual education for living.
absolutely, it's all, life is a lesson. The choices, decisions we make, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. No one can predict what's going to happen, but everything is a lesson. It's all part of the journey, and it's all
Yeah,
part of becoming more enlightened with the world
yeah,
and
yeah,
ourselves.
and you can never learn less. That's Buckminster Fuller's was one of Buckminster Fuller's sayings. You can never learn less, right?
Absolutely.
Even if you do everything wrong, you're still going to learn something.
Great way to look at life. I have one last question for you,
Yeah.
Udo. And firstly, I just want to acknowledge your incredible goal, vision for helping and the health and wellness of the world right now. I mean, it's such a large goal, but you're on the right track. And it's been such a pleasure interviewing you today. And just I really appreciate how open and honest you've been. And I really hope the audience has got a lot from today's interview.
Yeah. And audience, just remember, it takes one to know one.
This guy's good. I have one last question for you, and I promise it's not going to be one of those difficult ones, although you might like that. If you could change one thing in the world right now to do with mental health, because we know with COVID-19, we know that mental health has skyrocketed and something needs to change. I feel it in my heart, like so many change makers need to come. What's one thing that you would do if you had the power to do that?
Yeah. I would make it very clear to everybody who's freaking out because they can't do what they need to do. Their expectations are being blown right and left. They're in pain because they have habits. First of all, recognize your addiction to the products of your thinking and don't suppress them. Feel them, be observant about them, but also know that at the same time that your head is freaking out, which is it's all happening in the cortex of your brain, but nowhere else in your body. Realize also that the peace and the contentment and the fulfillment and the love that you want, because you'd like to get away from that and get to that, that is also within you. And make a little bit of room in your suffering. Make a little bit of room for the joy and the peace that also live within you, and spend a little bit more time going to those, because you don't have to build them. You just have to rediscover and reconnect to them.
Beautiful.
There's a place where life is not affected by anything mental. Life is beyond that. Life never gets sick, never dies. Awareness never gets sick, never dies. Inspiration is the cure for depression, because you can't be depressed and inspired at the same time.
There you go. That's it.
And breathing slowly is a cure for anxiety. Do it deliberately. And this is not just for people in New Zealand and COVID. This is like every day living in a world where everything is always changing. But your anchor is within you. Your anchor is within you. So there's something in you that never changes. It's kind of like everything that can change will. And the only thing that won't change is what can't. And there's something in you that can't change. That is the same, that is an anchor, that is a peace, that is a calmness, that is a quiet, that is a love, that is a richness, that is awesome. Give that, go closer to that more often as often as you can. And you'll be able to get to a place where you could check into your mind and be mentally ill, and check into your heart and be 100% purely healthy in your being. They exist within you already. You have
Wow.
choice.
I'm blown away. You've given me goosebumps all over, Udo. You're such an incredible man, and I really think a lot of people are going to get a lot from today's interview. So it's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we will be in touch really soon.
All right.
Bye for now.
Thank